Good morning from the workshop. Wow, this video is going to be a weird one because I'm filming this intro way after a lot of the stuff you'll see in this video, purely because I've been rubbish at filming stuff. I filmed a few things a little while ago and just life and work has got in the way, so I've not really filmed much, even though quite a lot's been happening. So this video is going to be a bit of a mix and match. I'll maybe put some titles or something across the screen for each chapter so you know what the hell's going on.
Flashback.
Mentioned in the last video about the correct diesel boxes I bought. Well, here they are. They look really tidy. I have no, they're supposedly off good cars, good running cars, and the person I bought them off seems sound, so I've no reason not to believe him. But what I always class O2M boxes, these 6 speeds, is having 2 ratios, petrol and diesel. There are some like real slight, pretty insignificant variations, and just by complete fluke, these are different variation to the ones that I did the gear ratio calculator with. And to be honest, these are a bit better. They've got a slightly lower first, second and third. I mean, like, it is quite slight. So it, lower geared first, second, third, so good for acceleration. And 4th, 5th and 6th are a tiny bit longer. And when I mean a tiny, I mean literally like an extra mile an hour or so. But the lower, but not by a huge amount, first, second and third is a bonus. I don't know if you would really notice the difference between the two. But, when it's already there, ideal. There's no way I would have looked out for this particular one because the ratios are different. That's why I always class them as petrol and diesel ratios, because they are close enough. You'll be fucking kidding yourself to really say, you can tell the difference between what they are. But, if it's handed to you, I prefer this one. So, next job is to make a hybrid. Oh, actually, diff. So yeah, torque biasing diff to go in it too. Good time. This is why we don't get that much work done in the workshop, because we talk about something and then we get silly ideas. They're good ideas, but they're silly. Me and Thomas just sitting there having some lunch and talking about just car stuff. And I said about, we were talking about turbo Hayabusas, and then it got on to tricycles, and then it got on to this, that, the other. And Tom was like, hang on a minute.
Building one already?
Yeah, and literally within a couple of minutes, Thomas had walked around the workshop and designed himself a 700 brake 180 trike. And Thomas builds bikes, that's what he does. He could build it so easy, it's like, fucking hell, Well, yeah, we always stupid ideas, but from this now, we've got another idea, which we'll talk about when you've done it.
I think I shall probably have to employ someone else.
Yeah.
Someone nice and calm.
Yeah, to tell us no.
Because it's like, this is bad, because you have a stupid idea instead of me saying, oh, listen, just not, I'm amplifying that.
Yeah.
And it's vice versa.
That's what we always do.
When I put this up, you shouldn't be fucking, oh, this is a great idea, I'm gonna get the camera, it's like, no, this is stupid.
It is a great idea. But
from this,
thing is, this is a great idea, but it's like completely out of what we normally do. But this is also snowballed into a different idea, because don't get me wrong, this idea Thomas laid out in the same time where it was like, fucking motorbikes, go-karts, fucking dustbins, everything, do you know what I mean? It's like, we're just, because obviously I said in the last video I want to do like 200 in this, well 200 plus, which will happen, but then we just get other ideas. But now we've got another idea which we'll talk about later, maybe in this video, maybe not. That's more MR2 related, but just as stupid. Well, not quite as stupid as this, nothing's as stupid as this, but
it won't be that far.
Yeah.
It won't be that far.
Yeah, so yeah, it'd be good. Also, my roll cage is up in the sky. we needed some, obviously we're tidying up, so we needed to store stuff, and Thomas was like, why don't you build it and then we can hang it from the roof. It's like, good idea. So there. And I also weighed this. I don't know if I videoed this last night, so I will talk about it again because I can't remember what I filmed. But I wondered how heavy these are. So once I built it, I got the scales on the ground and then picked it up basically. I got in the middle of it and lifted it, and then stood on the scales and then checked the weight without it. And this weighs 45 kilos. So full cage, the mounts, the bolts, everything. So this car weighs, I would say, at least 30 kilos more than the old one, roughly, because this is lighter in many aspects, but it's got a 45 kilo cage in it. So it's at least 30 kilos heavier, maybe a bit more, I don't know. But we was only, we're not 100% what the last one weighed because the scale's fucked out. But this has got to be somewhere in the 900s now, even if the last one was mid 8s, high 8s. But I will properly weigh this when it's actually complete soon. But yeah, cage in the sky. Same as Thomas needed to store some of his motorbike stuff, and he also needed to store a big roof rack that was on his Audi. So he's hung that from the ceiling too. You got to think. You got to think.
You combine the two problems to get a solution.
Yeah, this is, you got to think outside the box. But we think outside the box too much, and this is why we get stupid ideas. If you guys knew half the fucking MR2 ideas that we get, we would just never have time to do. You'd be going on at us to build them, because they are awesome, but it's just like, you know.
Yeah, but with the time thing.
Yeah.
We didn't have the time so far.
So far. We should have more now.
We still don't have enough time for everything.
But a bit more.
But we're gonna have about 70% more time.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully.
So
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, stupid ideas. We're good at
that. So what are you doing?
Destroying another shell. Well, not really. We're going to see how light and how basic we can make one of these. The amount of people who said, oh, you know, you should make an MR2 go-kart, and I've always been like, nah, bollocks to that. They might have a point. So this is our, what do you call it, development mule, test shell, whatever. It's literally a car we never really planned to do anything with, barring, you know, work out engine setups and whatever. So why don't we try it on this, see how light we can make it. So I'm going to take all the panels off, weigh them all one by one, so even if nothing else comes from it, we truly do know what weighs what.
The weights, correct.
You know, weights of each panel, because again, we know some of them, like the door is super heavy, it's about 25 kilos, but never weighed a lot of it. I'm going to weigh everything, and we'll work out how light we can get one of these, because maybe some kind of MR2 kart. This is one of the few production cars on the planet where you can remove all the panels.
Yeah, none of the panel is actually structural.
No, nothing at all.
Nothing.
No, you know, I mean, like, that's why in America they build vet karts, because again, a Corvette is one of the few cars where you can remove the panels, and you can on this. There isn't any other UK car you can. No. I don't think so.
Just one of
so maybe it's a great idea.
It's worth trying.
Yeah.
It's a great car to see if the idea is very, very stupid or just stupid.
Yeah.
Or made to know something.
Yeah, we get stupid ideas non-stop, so we may as well put one into reality. That might be a good idea. That might be something that...
Plus this one already runs with the 1.8.
Oh yeah, it's already got a 1.8, it will drive. But how well will it drive with no doors and no panels?
See?
I reckon it, well...
Should be good. This chassis-wise, this is good. It's just few panels that were a bit scratched and rusted, but chassis and all the stuff is nice and solid.
I think it could weigh, well, it'd be under 800 kilos. Well, a couple hours later, the MR2 is stripped bare. I've actually put the rear lights and front lights and bonnet and boot back on, because Thomas said, and I agree, anything it looks better with them on. It just does. So yeah, gotta remove everything else. And in that same couple of hours, Thomas has removed an absolutely massive 01606.
The giant.
It is very giant.
It's also strong.
Yeah, it's a big fucking engine.
Mm-hmm.
Can see the manifold properly now.
Oh yeah. It's been some time.
Serious fucking bit of kit that. Right, if anyone wondered, front and rear quarter panels, the arch liners, basically all the crap around the arches, front and rear, adds up to, on this, that's 18.7 kilos, and that's without any nuts and bolts and stuff, and you know, little bits and pieces, you know. So realistically it's going to be at least 19, maybe 20 from that alone. Doors complete are 25 kilos each. I wonder what all the roof and all that gubbins is, because this feels heavy with all these extra bits. This is all the roof shit, so the roof and all the fabric and trim and just bullshit that goes along with it. 29.6 kilos, so 30 odd kilos for the roof stuff, which is not surprising. I mean, with all the nuts and bolts, that'll easily be 30. So Thomas had to check what 295s look like on the back of an MR2, and the answer is awesome. This is at, like, you know, correct ride height, you know, hubs in the middle, and yeah, it looks nuts.
The car is on the ramp. This is the height of the car. Really.
My car, although I hope to put an engine in it by now, delayed by everything going wrong. On this, I whipped the gearbox off so I could do the diesel gearing, and obviously it's got to fit the limited slip diff at the same time. So took it all apart, all that, you know, easy enough. And the plan was just take off the ring gear off the original diff, bolt it to the new one, bolt it in the car, done. And then
one eternity later.
this is my torque biasing limited slip diff. It's been a pain. It's been a real pain. On most cars, ring gears are bolted to the diff, and that's what I'm used to. On the Volkswagen Audi stuff, they have got these giant rivets, and I thought, you know, you just gotta drill them out. And I thought, well, it makes sense that things are easier to come out the way they went in. So I drilled the backside of the rivets right down to not existing, and thought I'd just hammer them out. Didn't work. Took ages to do, and they would not hammer out at all. For some reason, I'm not even sure why. You have to do it the other way around. You basically drill the head off the rivets, and which it takes like 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then you hammer it all the way through and they come out no problem. But I spent best part of a day doing it the opposite way, because the opposite way seemed like a better idea. Turns out it was a bad idea. So yeah, if you got to do it, don't do it that way. Take the heads off, hammer it through, easy peasy. I've got new seals and shims and bearings, because obviously this needs bearings pressed onto it. There's the other side of the bearing that needs pressing into the actual gearbox casing, which is a pain in the ass, but again, needs doing. And obviously, because it was originally rivets, you have to then bolt it in. So I've got these ARP bolts that are for the actual specific purpose, and they are splined rivet type things from that end. So they're on splines. You hammer the splines in, and then you do them up from this side, and job done. But obviously, until I get this in with the new bearings, I can't put the engine back in the car, because obviously this needs to go in the gearbox first. And the gearbox, well, the engine's there, and the gearbox is all over the floor there, unfortunately.
Flashback.
I've been thinking, because of my speed goals in this, I want to eventually do like 200 mile an hour plus in the standing mile and so on. And it's, you know, it's a straight line car. I think, and it's really easy on one of these as well, because we've already looked, it's one of the easiest cars to do it on. I want to make a flat bottom floor for it, purely to improve aero. So I'm not going to worry about like a big diffuser and a big splitter as such. It's still going to look like nothing. I just want to remove as much aerodynamic drag as I can.
Much later.
I've not done that much to my car in the last few weeks because just work and life and everything's been getting in the way, and been trying to prioritize actual business stuff in the workshop. So not done a lot, but have done a lot at the same time. So let me sort of explain. In the video, well, a couple of videos ago, I said I want to do like eventually say 200 mile an hour plus in this thing, and I know it's possible, but there's a few things I want to do to make that easier rather than just adding tons and tons of power. Obviously over the years with magazines I've tested loads of cars, done top speed testing, and probably the minimum amount of power a car has had to do a genuine 200 in a small amount of space, you know, like the standing mile, because obviously we haven't got 7 mile long test tracks like they test production cars on. So in a small amount of space, which is really the only relevant at the time, you know, standing mile sort of stuff, the lowest power I recall a car doing 200 or more with was probably about 600, 650. And this is less than that still. This isn't even 550 yet. But the difference is, those cars, they wasn't aerodynamic, they wasn't light, they wasn't anything. So this should have an advantage there. I'm still not convinced it's got enough power to do it in the mile regardless yet. But there's only one way to find out. But what I am doing is giving it a hand with various changes. The one thing is going to be what this is here, which is a load of 1.5 mil thick T6 aluminium. T6 is like the super stiff one. And we're going to make a full front to back flat floor from it. Not for downforce or anything like that, but for reducing drag, aerodynamics. And because of that, because there's no way anymore, once that's done, for the air to escape from under the bonnet or out the engine bay, just from underneath, which is how most cars do it, it needs more air to escape in other ways. So obviously on the back you've got quite a lot anyway, and you've got these. But I've also added these 4. And the reason I've done it this way, even though we could have done it like we did the Aero test, where I just cut slots and lifted up, which does look badass, I'm trying to make this car look as standard as possible from, you know, first glance, so people don't realise it's fast. That's part of the fun for me, having a sleeper, having a car that when I destroy supercars and whatever, they're like, what the hell just happened? I can't believe that crappy looking MR2 with wheel trims and look standard destroyed me. It's like my old Corolla. You know, that the video of the half mile day, I might put a link up in the top corner there to that if you've not seen it. That's a perfect example, probably one of the most fun days I've ever had. A supercar half mile day, and I was like 11th overall out of about 60 odd supercars in a standard looking Corolla. On the front, it's even more vital, because on the front there's never normally any sort of way to get the air out. So even a lot of standard cars at speed, they try to, you know, the front gets light because there's so much pressure under the bonnet. But if you've got a flat floor, so the air can't escape from underneath like it normally tries to, it's even more so. And again, I actually originally had that Tornado air duct, which I've always had on the car, which was fine and made it stable at speed, unlike a lot of standard cars, especially lighter ones. And then I cut these into it, which work, but it looked mean as fuck, but not subtle at all. Whereas this is a lot less noticeable, even though it's basically the same amount of air being let out. I mean, I can see it here, you can see it on camera, but at first glance, especially when the car's driving, you'd barely even see them. They're literally just aluminium and riveted on. So they're lighter than standard and cost me like no money. You know, you could, if you wanted to be fancy, get them proper pressed in, welded in, all that kind of crap to a standard bonnet, but this is lighter and about 1/10 of the price and just as effective, just not as pretty. And I don't want it to look pretty. I like the fact that even if someone did notice that, they'd be like, what the fuck, that looks shit, you know, because most people associate like fancy with fast. Do you know what I mean? There's not many people really associate crappy looking with quick, because most people don't understand. So the fact it doesn't look super pretty, even if they did notice it, is even better. On the front, because the intercooler's there, the core, and the radiator's just as wide, I might make some plates on the front to block some of that off, because again, the less air that is bypassing the radiator intercooler, the better for efficiency. But also, that air's doing nothing by going in there, so it would be better if it didn't go in there at all, you know, from a aerodynamic point of view. So the less has to come out of the bonnet vents, the better. On the back of the bonnet, this is quite interesting. I never really understood why it had like almost a scoop there, because most cars don't. Most cars breathe like for the cabin through ducts on the scuttle panel, but they've never got like a scoop like that, like forcing air in. It's like, why is that? I did a bit of working out, because obviously as standard everybody knows it's a normal common thing, and it's almost a myth because it's not true in a lot of cases. People are like, oh, the base, you know, the scuttle panel, this is a high pressure zone, so it can't let air out, it only sucks air in, because that's why they got that's why your your interior blowers, sorry, the vents are there because of high pressure area. And yeah, that's true on a lot of cars, but not all cars. That's why often on most cars, if you raise the back of the bonnet, yeah, that'll let air out at low speed or idle, but at high speed it's pushing air in, so it don't really have the effect people think. But on this, it turns out, and it's on a few other cars too, it depends on the aero shape. MX-5s, at least Mark 1s are similar too. The high pressure zone isn't here, it's about here. So this doesn't naturally suck in air, hence why they made a bloody scoop to force it in, because you never normally see that on a car, it's normally flat. And that never made sense to me. From the factory, they've made it like that to force air in rather than out, which I would want, because I don't need any of that crap. So what I've done is basically ruined their aerodynamic thing by letting it all out at the back. And also these, which are like basically fake at a standard, there's only a few of these holes, and it's blocked underneath. It's just really for looks, because the interior blowers work through the scoop, because like I said, this isn't a high pressure zone on this car. So I've made them real by drilling out the holes, and hopefully at least this will benefit me from a aerodynamics, you know, airflow point of view, because it's one of the few cars where the high pressure zone isn't here. Looking at like CFD stuff and of these cars and similar, this is basically about ambient pressure. It's similar to the whole bonnet. It only gets high pressure here somewhere, and while that's not so good for getting air into your cabin, hence them making that stupid scoop. It's fucking good for performance wise. So yeah, we're getting somewhere. This is the mock-up car, which is also a sort of go-kart thing at the same time. It's like two projects in one. It's working out if you could make a go-kart type thing out of one of these, which yeah, you can. And two, being used for mock-up purposes for like custom jobs. And this is one person's custom thing where it's the off-the-shelf style 3-inch exhaust, but he's running a whole set HY35, so a different manifold, external gate, so it needs a dump pipe from the external gate, which is there, look. And Thomas has made it go over the CV rather than over the actual boot, so it wouldn't melt, and it also just looks badass. And this guy's getting a charge cooler, so he was going to have a rear mount intercooler, but we started developing the charge cooler setup, and I shown him, I was like, do you want this instead? And he's like, yeah, that's cool as fuck. So yes, it's having both of these things, and yeah, it's looking awesome. The charge cooler setup is coming along really nicely. It's now got proper alloy mounts that mount to the standard MR2 engine mounts. So technically you could fit it to other stuff, but it is literally going to be a bolt-on kit for this swap. So it's going to be a pipe straight to the KO4, a pipe literally with the map sensor into the throttle. It will be a complete off-the-shelf fit, and it's a big old charge cooler too. I think it's the same size as mine, or maybe very slightly bigger. And yeah, big ports are gonna get, we got some 90-degree fittings to come off them. And yeah, obviously a little bit more work to finish it, the pipe work and so on, but it's looking good. As you would have seen in the previous video when we did the aero testing, this is that same car with the sort of final decision on it.
It's like you tied it with the
so yeah,
original lid
standard lid on it now. That's the mock-up dodgy one. This is now made of aluminium, so proper ducting. Thomas is just going to make that one in a bit. That's the last bit to make. The intake pipe now is awesome one, 3-inch turbo one that goes all the way to there, MAF sensor there. And yeah, this is a brilliant setup now. And the good thing about that intake, the intake pipe, is even if you haven't got a 180T swap, that intake is universal. Fit that to a 1ZZ, a 2ZZ, a K20 or whatever, because that's where the standard intake pipe comes from anyway. The difference is this one will work, because as much as people believe the standard intake works good, it doesn't, because of how it is. As you would have seen in that previous video, blanking that off affected the temps in the bay pretty much none at all, because there's no ram air effect. It will breathe air into that naturally, you know, suck it in from the turbo or the engine if it was NA, if the filter's there. But does this push air in? No. And even worse is, what people forget is from the factory, this intake pipe doesn't even directly go to there. The intake pipe from the factory goes down here, then into the engine bay there. So it basically doesn't suck completely cold air. It sucks a mixture of whatever comes through that, which is basically nothing, and the engine bay hot air. So this is the first setup, even more than standard, that will truly get cold air. The standard MR2 setup with the airbox and the cold air feed doesn't actually get cold air, because it gets it from there, and this has little to zero ram air effect. To have an actual working setup from one of these, you need to have either the filter there or this completely sealed to there, and that's what this exactly is. So perfect. Another thing I want to sort is I would like to run a Motorsport traction control on this, partly to help it launch, partly to sort of make it easier to drive in any like funny circumstances, unexpected things, because when you've got like 900 kilos and 500 plus horsepower and rear wheel drive and mid-engine, it's a bit hairy. So normal traction control on cars, it can be a bit crappy and intrusive, although most modern ones are good. I can't deny that. It's usually bloody good. Some are still shit, but most are pretty good. But motorsport ones, where it's adjustable, the amount of slip you've got, so it's not intrusive and you can have it set how you want it, they're really good. And I was, well, I still am close to pulling the trigger and buying the Race TCS setup, which is, I think it's a Polish company, and their stuff's well proven. It's like universal. You fit it, it doesn't need anything particular from your car. It can be on a standard car or an aftermarket management car or anything, and it's really good. It's got an adjustable knob in the car as well, and it's all like programmable on a laptop, so you set your settings on the laptop, and then you got like 6 or 7 positions from the knob in the car. And I was going to buy that, but then it's bloody expensive. It's not that expensive, but considering I'm like doing everything super low budget, I'd rather not spend the like probably 600 odd pound it's going to cost me. But there's another option that involves this kind of crap. Basically, because I've got Ignitron. Ignitron has a built-in motorsport traction control setup. I thought it wasn't usable for me because I was told, well, it's true, that it runs off the Volkswagen like CAN network, the CAN bus stuff. And obviously this isn't a Volkswagen, so it wouldn't work. But that turns out that's not strictly true. Yes, it runs off the Volkswagen stuff, but if you can wire in the Volkswagen ABS ECU, i.e. this, to the ABS sensors on here, which you should be able to, and then run the wires from the ABS ECU to the Ignitron, should be able to make the Ignitron traction control work on this car, or any car with Ignitron, for very little money. I mean, ABS ECU and the plug, it's like £20. So then the rest is just some wires. So as long as it works, I can have motorsport traction control, and potentially with like 4 settings, I can on like a button still, for 50 quid, £100. If not, then I'm just gonna have to shell out for the Race TCS, because it's still worth it. It's just I'd rather spend £100 than £600. Yeah, regarding this traction control business, I only need the ECU, I don't need the ABS unit, so I've got to work out how it comes off. It will come off, I just don't know how. Genuinely have no idea. And I also know for a fact nobody else will really know, because who's ever done this? Most people just run the standard ABS module, because they're not fitting aftermarket 180 AB traction control to a MR2. I'm probably the first, well, I will be the first person ever. So I might end up breaking this trying, but these are like £10, £20, so doesn't matter. Don't care. Well, that was simpler than I expected. That is the ABS unit dismantled, and this part is the ECU, it seems. I won't even pretend to know what I'm looking at here, because I have no fucking idea. But what I do know is I need this bit and don't need that bit. I don't need most of this bit, I would say, but I think it's all one piece. So this is the bit I need, it seems. So yeah, good times. If you ever want to know how to undo them, there's 2 bolts. One there, these star ones. Undo them, the rest just pulls off. Literally, easy peasy. I'm sure nobody ever will need to do this, but just on the off chance, now you know. These are all the wires for the ABS, now I've took it apart. I bet you to just run the speed sensors, which is all I need to do, it probably only needs about 5 of these. but I need to work out what is what. I have no clue.
Should we actually talk about the most important thing?
What's that?
Racing people by looking fairly standard.
Well, yeah, exactly.
This is what you try to disguise.
Oh, totally. It has to
Do
look.
you think it still looks?
Yeah, very much so. Surprised more than I expected. Like I said about when I went to that half-mile day, I was amazed how little people know.
These people have no idea.
Yeah, but also I'm talking about, like, if people are looking over the car carefully, yeah, but just driving down the street when it's rolling, you would never notice the tires. You wouldn't barely see the vents, nothing. From a roll, it would just.
From a roll far away,
yeah,
no, but
yeah.
as soon as you get close.
Yeah, if someone would walk around inspecting it, yeah, but even we know from when people have turned up here to look at stuff, and they're like, oh, these are smart and all that. Then you open the back and they're like, what the fuck? They just presume it's a modified car. They don't expect it's fast. Do you know what I mean? We're used to it.
From there, standard.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Which is what I want.
You don't know these
it's the same as the ones on the front. Like, of course, it's obvious there, but like from like 20 foot away, you don't even hardly notice the bloody things. So, which is what I want. I want it because there's always a compromise. To keep it looking totally standard, it's impossible with what I want to do. It's just not possible.
Skinny tires.
No, skinny tires, no vents, whatever. The car wouldn't work with what I wanted to do.
This is what we said before. We used to big tires. We used to all this stuff.
Yeah.
You look at the Andrews one. Again, they standard tires.
Yeah.
Oh, really? They come that skinny?
Yeah, exactly. They look weird. It looks weird. The aim is to keep it as sleeper as possible, without forfeiting any of the performance side of things. And this is about as close as I can get, I think. Oh yeah. Oh, it's gonna get the cat stick as soon as I can find some more. Turns out they're quite hard to find. I wish I'd have not thrown mine away now, but they got old and didn't stick very well anymore. But turns out cat stickers are more.
Cat sticker is a must.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's having cat stickers. I mean, it's it's the looking close thing. These vents or not, looking close, you see a roll cage and gigantic air filter inside the car, you know. But the key is, like, if I drove past, if you was on the motorway or something and you drove past me, would you notice it's not just an ordinary MR2 maybe with some crap mods on it? Not unless you was really into cars. That's why I'm going to put an MR2 badge back on the back. I mean, this was debadged when I bought it, but I don't want anyone to mistake it for something quick. I don't want anyone to be, oh, is that some Lotus or is that some whatever? I want to clearly say MR2, Toyota, you know, as well as an AA badge, a Jesus Fish.
Nice, yeah, Jesus
Yeah.
Fish, Jesus Life,
Yeah,
Jesus Loves You.
yeah, a fucking National Trust sticker. Basically what the Corolla had. The Corolla had the cat stickers, the Jesus Fish, the National Trust stickers and the AA badge. This is basically going to be the same, with the added Queen as a passenger. So yeah, it should work. And no matter what, nobody would ever think, you know, even if people realise it was fast, it's an MR, you know, or modified, it's an MR2, so people would probably think it's going to be like 200 brake. Oh fucking hell, what would they think? They might think, imagine if they was really, oh, this is mental, this is probably like 350 horsepower. They're still 150 odd, well, nearly 200 brake down. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Tell you something though, in time, as more and more people recognize, you have no idea how many people recognize you on the road.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My channel is not even close to big as yours. Driving my van down the motorway, M5, put a message on the phone. So, alright. Click it on the messenger.
Yeah.
A picture of me driving with M5. Just so where?
Yeah.
How?
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, it is fucking crazy.
Because you have something which is recorded.
Yeah. But that's the thing, I'm not trying to hide it from car people, because I know they'll all know. It's just your average dickhead on the street.
From supercar people.
Yeah, just normal.
Usually they have no idea.
Just normal people, basically. Car people they're not even 1% of the population, like the car geeks, the modified car people we are. I mean, like, well, I've said a bit, I think I've said before, but like my friends, they all like cars, but not one of them's like really into cars. So while they like cars, and most of them's got fast cars, hardly any, if they didn't know this car, if they ever saw this on the street, I guarantee not one of them would think, oh, that's fast. They'd think, what the fuck's those shitty vents stuck onto it?
Because how many people are actually into MR2? So how many people haven't even an idea
Exactly.
what it is?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows MR2s are shit. Most people think 180s aren't very good. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so the fact that people are so wrong is fucking perfect for what I want. So, good times. But, you know, like the Corolla thing, even when they saw how fast it was and they came over and asked about it and I had the bonnet open and they said, why is this so fast? And it's like, this got a fresh GT and a big turbo. And these people who own like genuine legit supercars was like, oh cool, which bit's the turbo? When there's a giant turbo literally in front of them on the slam panel. So yeah, you know, we forget how sleeper things can be, because my old 205, the one that looked like a base model automatic piece of shit, that was 2-sleeper. That had a 180 in it as well. And that was 2-sleeper because it was almost impossible to find anyone to race me. Just, they wouldn't race because they thought, what's the point of racing this beige 5-door base model? In my whole time I owned that thing, I probably had 2 or 3 races and I would go out for, you know, hour a day looking for them. You know what I mean? It's like, it was really hard. They, you know, people would be driving fast and you would even like catch up, you know, they're like racing around, and when you got near them, they wouldn't think, oh, I'll carry on racing this dickhead. They would just,
how is it in this?
oh, this is fine. Everybody races MR2s.
Yeah.
Everybody. Even,
Oh, because they know it's an easy win.
yeah, all the slow cars race, you know, all like the just random men in people carriers and shit, like, you know, diesel people carriers and all kinds of shit. Everyone sees Mark 3 MR2s and be like, look at this dickhead in his pretend sports car, these are slow as fuck. My diesel people carrier's faster than him, I'll show him. So all the time, non-stop. It was worse when I had the yellow one, because obviously it was yellow as well. So literally, you couldn't barely go near any car anywhere on the road without someone trying to like race you in it. And that was slow, so it was not ideal. They are like race bait because people just think, I'll show him. If there's ever a car people are confident about beating, it's one of these. You know, yeah. If it was a Mark II MR2, I bet some people would think, oh, I might not, you know, that might be quick, because some people know there are MR2 turbos, but these are just well known as slow, girly hairdresser cars. So everyone races you, and that's exactly what I want. So, good times. There's another one there, another one there, another one there, another one outside. Huh?
1, 2, 3,
5 at the moment.
4, 5.
4 silver and 1 blue. I saw a red one on the way here and I was like, ah, I really fancy having one as a daily again now. If we had another vehicle just to carry shit around in, you know, like I used at Toledo, stuff I can just go and pick up gearboxes in, I'd have another as a daily for sure, because I like them. But you need a spare car.